Divorce? Why? We're not compatible. Married a month and you won't even let me touch you. Well, then touch me. How do you know if you don't even try? I was planning to ask my gorgeous, brilliant, and intimidatingly cool university professor wife for a divorce. Sure, she had leg for days, hair down her waist, wore these chic, rimless glasses, and had a thing for stockings. The perfect mix of innocent and tempting, but we'd been married a month, and she wouldn't let me lay a finger on her. I bit the bullet and brought up divorce. Her eyes went red, tears welling up, and she threw a small box at me. Her voice choked with emotion. Well, then touch me. Try it. How do you know we're not compatible if you don't even try? It all started when I got back from getting a somewhat dubious master's degree overseas. My family immediately started me to get married. So, I ended up in a whirlwind marriage with a university professor, a 28-year-old PhD. Everyone on campus apparently called her the Ice Queen. But when I actually met her, I found out Dr. Joanna King wasn't just smart. She was loaded. On her own place, car paid off, no debt, an only child, and her parents had passed away. My mom told me a catch like that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Landing her, no. Marrying her is like hitting the jackpot. She'd said, the first time I saw her, I was blown away by her. Well, yeah, she was gorgeous with flawless skin and those incredible legs, but it was her intense intellectual vibe that really got me. A month after we met, we were signing the marriage certificate. But after a month of living together, no, more like being roommates, I was already regretting it. She was just so cold. I suspected her blood ran a few degrees cooler than normal. The difference in our education levels was huge, too. She was an early bird, always reading or doing research. I was a night owl, usually crawling into bed around 6 a.m. and waking up at 6 p.m. More into partying and let's just say alternative education. We weren't even on the same page. Hell, we weren't in the same book. On the day we got our license, she said she had her period. So, our wedding night kicked off with us sleeping in separate rooms. Living together felt more distant than having a random roommate. This wasn't a partnership. It was barely even cohabitation. After a lot of thought, I decided I couldn't give up an entire ocean of fish for one admittedly very impressive tree. I woke up early, planning to go to the university and lay it all out for her. Following a route from memory, I found her office. I was still hesitating outside, wondering whether to knock when a female student just barged right in. Curious, I peeked in and pricked up my ears. Professor King, you've looked at my paper, right? Could you please just sign off on it? The student asked, sounding a little nervous. My wife, Joanna, sat at her desk in a crisp white blouse. From the side, what would be a knee-length skirt on anyone else was practically a miniskirt on her. Maybe divorcing her would be a huge mistake. Joanna had her sleeves rolled up, skimming the paper at lightning speed. But the more she read, the deeper her frown became. Is English even your first language? And did you invent this citation style yourself? This is so bad not even your own mother would sign off on this. The student just stood there looking utterly lost on the verge of tears. Compared to this, Joanna was practically a sweetheart to me. Joanna slammed the paper down on the desk, looking like she was about to explode. Then her eyes flicked to me in the doorway. We made eye contact. Her expression softened instantly, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Ethan, what are you doing here? A small smile touched her lips as she walked over and looped her arm through mine. If you're looking for me, just come on in. The student's eyes practically popped out of her head. Professor, who is this? Joanna glanced at her. My husband. The student suddenly turned into a gossip columnist. Professor, when did you get married? Joanna shot her another look. If you spent more energy on your writing, it wouldn't read like a bad fanfic. After the student left, a heavy silence descended on the office. We just stared at each other. Awkward was an understatement. What brings you here today? Joanna asked, her voice surprisingly soft. She seemed to be in a good mood. Maybe now wasn't the best time to bring up divorce. Thinking fast, I came up with an excuse. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. Thought I'd see if you were about to get off work. Joanna's eyes crinkled with a smile. She quickly tidied her desk and taking my arm again, said, perfect timing. I can leave now. Looking at her professional work attire and then thinking my decidedly unprofessional thoughts. Those glasses, the Balenciagas. She was the absolute pinnacle of that nerdy hot librarian look. I started having serious second thoughts. A face like that, a body like that. Why be crazy to divorce her? In the hallway, we ran into a few of her colleagues. She'd give a slight nod. And if someone looked curiously at me, Joanna would smile and say, "This is my husband. We just got married. We'll invite you all to the reception when we have it." Once we were in the car, the silence was almost deafening. I try to make conversation. You're a little tough on your students, huh? It's not my fault they're so dense. You weren't this strict when you were helping me with my papers back in the day. Joanna had been my dad's student. I hadn't seen her much back then, but I'd often heard my dad singing her praises. A true genius and a genius among geniuses. She'd done an 8-year combined bachelor's, master's, and PhD program, finishing her doctorate at 25. After a major national research project, she was fast-tracked to a full professorship, breaking the university record for the youngest professor. Publications in top-tier journals. She turned them out like short stories, patents, almost one a year. She was financially independent before she even graduated. The only catch was that her parents had passed away when she was young, so she gotten through school on scholarships, grants, and work-study programs. Plus, she was notoriously aloof, not one for small talk or socializing. And me, I was the black sheep from a family of academics. My parents were Ivy Leaguers. I barely scraped into a state school, bombed my GREs by a mile, and ended up getting my joke of a master's degree overseas. Back in undergrad, my senior thesis nearly gave my own dad a stroke. He desperately handed off to Joanna for help. Back then, she was this really kind, older mentor figure, patiently explaining every word, every comma. I never imagined that once she became a professor herself with her own students, she'd turn into such a hard ass. "You're different from them," she said, then pulled the car over. "I need to run into the pharmacy." I was a bit confused. "Are you sick or did those students stress you out that much? Need some blood pressure meds or something to chill out?" Joanna gave me a look like she wanted to say something but didn't. Then she just got out and went into the pharmacy. She came back with a small bag, which she tucked in her purse. The rest of the drive home was silent. As soon as we got in, Joanna started cooking dinner. This was why I was hesitant to divorce her. Highly educated, gorgeous, and an amazing cook. Where else was I going to find a woman like that these days? Yesterday, out of boredom, I've been browsing some online dating profiles, and man, times have changed. 20 years ago, the romance novels were all alpha CEO falls for the girl from the wrong side of the tracks. 10 years ago, it was alpha CEO fall for the ambitious career woman. 5 years ago, alpha CEO falls for the woman hitting middle age. 1 year ago, alpha CEO falls for the menopausal me. Now it's alpha CEO falls for the divorced menopausal single mom. Man, the CEOs in these billionaire romance novels have it rough. In college, they're falling for the unremarkable, rebellious girl who was failing half her classes. Middle-aged, it's the divorced single mom. And in his golden years, he's falling for the menopausal janitor. The poor guy never gets to eat a decent meal his whole life. How dumb can these CEOs be? Their standards and morals just keep getting lower. "Ethan, dinner's ready." Joanna's voice pulled me back to reality. Come to think of it, if a loser like me could land a wife way out of my league like her, then alpha CEO fall for the menopausal me wasn't so far-fetched after all. I was shoveling food in my mouth while Joanna kept putting more on my plate. I quickly put up a hand to stop her. "Enough. I'm stuffed." Joanna finally stopped, then started eating her own meal in small, delicate bites. Silence fell over the dinner table again. We really had nothing in common. How was this supposed to work? The worst part was she ate so politely without making a sound that it was forcing me to act all prim and proper like some kind of well-mannered degenerate. After dinner, Joanna got up to clear the table. I messed around on my phone for a bit, then headed into the bathroom for a shower, sitting on the shower bench, letting the hot water wash over me, trying to clear my head. I'd never been divorced before. I had no experience with this. When was the right time to bring it up? I mulled it over for ages, but couldn't come up with an answer. I finally stood up to get out. Suddenly, everything went black. I slipped and went down hard. The shower bench I'd pushed against scraped loudly across the tiles. I heard a knock in Joanna's anxious voice from outside. "Ethan, what happened? Are you okay?" Still a bit dazed. I was about to say I was fine when the door creaked open. It suddenly hit me that I was stark naked. I scrambled to my feet, wincing in pain. I wanted to yell, "Don't come in." But it was too late. We were face to face. Joanna's pale face turned beet red. I was so embarrassed I didn't even think to cover myself. I looked down and realized that when I fell, the oversized flip-flop had slid all the way up to my calf. Joanna seemed to notice it, too. She coughed, trying to stifle a laugh. Those flip-flops are too big. I'll get you a smaller pair. Then she knelt and pulled the flip-flop off my leg. Seeing I was okay, she left. I got dressed and came out of the bathroom to find Joanna in the study wearing her glasses looking over some papers. After a long pause, I finally said it. Joanna, maybe we should just get a divorce. The papers in her hand trembled. Her eyebrows knitted together. What did you just say? I couldn't meet her eyes. I hunched my shoulders. Divorce. Joanna shot up from her chair. Ethan, do you think marriage is some kind of game? I mumbled head down. But we're not. We're not like a married couple. It's been a month and you won't even let me touch you. Joanna's face was cold. She didn't say anything, just walked out of the study. Before I knew it, she was pressing a small box into my hand. I stared at the familiar yet alien object, then looked at her, confused. What's this for? Joanna took off her glasses and unfastened her cufflinks. Well, then touch me. How do you know if you don't even try? Without the glasses, Joanna lost some of her scholarly air and gained a touch of raw lure. This wasn't a bad deal. I had the upper hand. Or so I thought. Well, if you're going to go down, might as well go down swinging with someone this beautiful. Unfortunately, about 3 minutes later, I was hiding my face under the covers, having a serious existential crisis. All that build-up, and I flamed out in record time. Total fail. Joanna's long arm reached over and gently patted my arm. It's okay. It's the first time for both of us. I've read some studies. This can happen. My mind, however, was racing. We touched, we tried, and it confirmed it. We really weren't compatible. I was so out of her league. Divorce. It had to be divorce. Joanna's soft voice whispered reassurances. It's fine. The literature says the second time is usually different. Should we try again? She had a point. Might as well gain some XP. Just as I was about to rally for another go, my phone on the nightstand buzzed. It was my mom. Ethan, your father collapsed. He's in the hospital. Hearing the panic in my mom's voice, I threw on some clothes and rushed downstairs. As I got into the car, Joanna slid into the passenger seat. She was already in her work skirt and blouse, perfectly put together. How do women get dressed so fast? No time to dwell on it. I started the car and sped towards the hospital. I was weaving through traffic, honking like a maniac. Joanna gently patted my hand on the gear shift. Don't worry, Ethan. Dad's always been healthy. His checkup a couple of months ago was clear. Don't scare yourself. Her words calmed my racing heart a little. When we got to the hospital and saw Dad, he was actually chatting with Mom, looking pretty cheerful. Your mother? Honestly, he said, smiling when he saw us. It was just a little dizziness from high blood pressure, and she had to drag you two all the way here. Seeing Dad was okay. Joanna and I both let out a sigh of relief. We talked to the doctor. It really wasn't serious. We settled the bill at the ER and drove both of them home. The next day, around noon, there was a knock on my bedroom door. Ethan, do you usually sleep this late? I glanced at my phone. 10:30 a.m. I shook my head at Mom. Nah, usually I'm up at 6 p.m. That is working the night shift. What exactly have you been doing lately? I decided to be honest with Mom. Playing video games, binge watching shows, hanging out at Tyler's bar at night. Tyler was my best bud. He opened a small, quiet lounge after college. He said business was good. It wasn't a rowdy place. Mostly young professionals came for a drink or two and then left. So, you're just screwing around all day? Mom gave me a look, shaking her head in exasperation. What kind of newlywed husband spends all his time at a bar? It's a lounge. Isn't that just a bar? I sighed. It's a chill spot, a respectable place. None of that sketchy club vibe. I just have a few drinks, listen to the live music. I'm not doing anything illegal, and you're doing this every day. Your wife doesn't have a problem with it. Now that she mentioned it, a wave of frustration washed over me. She gets off work around 5 or 6, which is when I'm usually heading out. We barely see each other. Tell me the truth. How are you two really getting along? I stared out the window. It's okay, I guess. Mom sighed deeply, her voice full of concern. Ethan, marriage takes work from both sides. You can't just do whatever you want because she's good-natured. A lot of Mom was launching in a lecture mode. I quickly cut her off. What's for lunch? Ask your father. I don't cook. Wow. She said it like it was a badge of honor not to cook. No shame at all. After I got ready, Dad was busy in the kitchen. Soon enough, there was a full meal on the table. Just as we were about to eat, Dad brought over a stacked lunchbox. "Ethan, take this to Joanna. You two can eat at the university." I looked at Dad exasperated. "Dad, she teaches at a prestigious university. They have this thing called the cafeteria. And in that cafeteria, there's a section called the faculty dining hall. Can cafeteria compare to home-cooked food? Joanna lost her parents so young. What she needs most is the warmth of a family. You need to take care of her. Understand?" "Yeah, I get it. Why is everyone suddenly on her side today? You two really seem to like this daughter-in-law, huh?" As I spoke, I sneakily swiped a piece of sweet and sour pork rib and popped it in my mouth. Dad stood with his hands on his hips, looking proud. Absolutely top-notch education, great personality, tall, beautiful. You couldn't find someone like her if you searched high and low. Way better than those characters you used to date. Dad's words stung, but I couldn't really argue. I'd had a few girlfriends in college. The first one cheated on me. The second had an affair. The third was the other woman for some married guy. Eventually, I just gave up on dating. When I came back from overseas, I let my parents set me up on blind dates. I never expected one of those dates to be Joanna, my dad's star student. Honestly, I didn't know her well. I just knew her parents had passed away young. And every Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, Dad would invite her over to eat with us. He'd even give us holiday money. When she tutored me on my senior thesis in college, she was the epitome of the untouchable ice princess. It wasn't that I didn't find her attractive. It was that she was so far out of my league, I couldn't even entertain the thought. Worlds apart, you know, some girls are so beautiful and brilliant, it feels like you belong to different species. You just don't go there. Plus, she was 3 years older than me. But my parents wore me down, so I agreed to meet her. On our date, she wore a sleeveless white linen knee-length dress and those blue-black rimless glasses. That figure, that aura, bam, it hit me right in the soul. I was totally smitten. I had no idea how my parents convinced a woman like her to go on a date with me. But in my infatuated state, I quickly agreed to marry her. At the time, I figured even if she had some weird quirks with that face and that body, I could deal. She was so exceptional. Yet my dad said she'd never really dated. I didn't quite believe it. "Dad, is there something wrong with her that you're not telling me?" Dad looked at me exasperated. "I taught her for years. Don't you think I know? She was always skipping grades. After her PhD, she buried herself in research. Would she have had time to date? Besides, she's your wife now. Get to know her yourself." He had a point. I was about to pick up the lunchbox and leave. Dad called me back, lowering his voice. "Is there really something wrong with her?" No, nothing wrong. What could be wrong? I was just kidding. I couldn't help but mutter to myself. If anyone had a problem, it was me. 3 minutes and that's counting the 90 seconds of foreplay. I wanted to cry. No, wait. It must have been first-time nerves. Yeah, that was it. It was just after 11 a.m. when I got to the university. I had her class schedule on my phone. She should still be in lecture. A thought struck me. I was curious what she was like when she was teaching. I slipped in through the back door of the lecture hall. On the stage, Joanna was explaining a series of complex molecular formulas. I recognized the letters and numbers, but I had no idea what they meant. Watching her explain it all so smoothly and confidently, I felt a strange little flicker of pride. "Hey man, you're not in this department, are you?" A guy next to me nudged my arm and whispered, "You here to witness the goddess in action, too?" I blinked, then nodded. Now that I'd engaged, he got more animated. "Our Professor King is super famous. Tons of guys from other departments come just to get a look at her." I frowned slightly. "Joanna's that popular?" Hearing my question, the guy's face swelled with pride. "You bet. She's hotter than a movie star, got a better body than a model, and academically she's the youngest top researcher since this place was founded. Even if Professor King is a bit aloof and doesn't play the campus politics game, with her research achievements, she's a shoo-in for the National Academy. From the top faculty down to the students and even the security guards, everyone sees Professor King as their dream girl." He then pointed to the front row. "See that? That handsome dude is Kenji Tanaka. Word is he's known Professor King for a long time. Always pestering her. Total loser way out of his league dreaming of landing a goddess like her. Professor King belongs to everyone. No one gets to lay a claim. We all idolize Professor King, but his intentions are obviously not pure. The other guys in our class are pretty hostile to him because of it. The guy then went on to sing Joanna's praises, saying she was all about her academic work and never got inappropriately close with students or colleagues, which was why she had so many fans at this prestigious university. He sighed dramatically. I heard Professor King got married recently. I wonder what kind of powerhouse could possibly be worthy of her. The student in the back row, the one talking. Could you answer this question? A clear, cold voice suddenly cut through the air from the front. I instinctively ducked my head. The guy next to me stood up, glanced at the blackboard, thought for a few seconds, and then answered that utilizes linear stability analysis and parallel flow like Taylor-Coed flow or really Binar convection. Holy crap! This was definitely not like my party school. I understood every word he said, but I had absolutely no clue what he was talking about. He'd been chatting with me for so long and could still keep up with the lecture. The world of academic superstars was clearly a different dimension from mine. Good. Sit down. His chatty neighbor, please explain what really Binar convection is. I kept my head down, pretending I hadn't heard. The guy next to me poked me. Dude, she's calling on you. Face burning. I reluctantly stood up. I don't know. A ripple of snickers went through the tiered lecture hall. I glared at Joanna. Was she deliberately trying to embarrass me? When she saw it was me, Joanna's face registered a flicker of surprise. Then the corner of her mouth twitched upwards. Come to my office after class. The guy next to me patted my shoulder. Dude, allow me to offer my condolences. I pulled out my phone, tapped on Joanna's messenger icon. You did that on purpose, right? You can walk home by yourself after class. I slipped out the back door as quietly as possible. No way was I letting these brainiacs know that their academic superstar, their goddess professor, was married to a total slacker like me. On stage, Joanna glanced down at her phone on the lectern, then let out a soft chuckle. She sent me a hug emoji and then continued her lecture. Class was over a few minutes later. I strolled along the campus paths towards her office. As soon as I walked in, Joanna came over, took my hand, and said, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. Thinking about that massively embarrassing moment, I was still fuming. I slammed the lunchbox on her desk. I bring you lunch and you humiliate me. Joanna looked at me a little flustered and ended up just holding my hand without saying anything. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. I noticed a privacy screen separating a small sitting area. I ducked behind it. The door opened and I heard Joanna say, You can leave the door open. Peeking through a gap in the screen, I saw who it was. That fairly handsome guy from the front row of the lecture. Kenji something. Just the name sounded like trouble. Joanna, he began, his voice soft. These are some gourmet mushrooms from my hometown. You can't buy them around here. My mom wanted me to bring you some to try. Kenji placed a bag on the desk. His movements careful, his tone gentle. Joanna didn't reach for it, just nodded. Please thank your aunt for me. Ethan would probably like the local specialty. And at school, it's Professor King. The guy looked a little awkward, rubbing the back of his neck. Right, Professor King. He hesitated for a few seconds, then seemed to make up his mind. Professor, there's a new restaurant that opened across from the main campus trip. The ambience and food are supposed to be pretty good. Would you be free to have dinner sometime? Joanna raised an eyebrow slightly. Is that so? Then I'll take Ethan there to try it sometime. I don't know if it was because I was there, but Joanna handled it perfectly. All business. Get to the point. And if there isn't one, you can leave. A few moments later, Kenji left looking dejected. When I came out, Joanna stood up and explained, my parents and his parents used to be close. He's one of my graduate students now. She opened a lunchbox and started setting out the containers on her desk. She pushed me into her chair and pulled up another one for herself. I tried to sound casual. Oh, so you two must be pretty close then. Joanna put a piece of beef on my plate and shook her head. After my parents passed away, I didn't have much contact with him. If he hadn't become my grad student, we probably wouldn't have crossed paths again. By the way, why do you always keep your office door open? Joanna glanced at the doorway. If a female student or professor comes by, I might close it, but if it's a male student or professor, the door stays open. I'm young. I have to be careful to avoid any misunderstandings or rumors. Remembering what the guy in class had said, it seemed Joanna did keep her distance from men and didn't engage in any ambiguous behavior. It looked like Joanna's character was pretty solid. And watching her eat so delicately like a lady, then looking at that face, that body, I needed to step up my game. This couldn't be a quick and dirty wait. Ethan, what about your principles? Weren't you determined to get a divorce? After lunch, Joanna automatically started cleaning up, even washing out the lunch containers and setting them on the windowsill to dry. Ethan, I have a big lecture this afternoon. It ends at 3:50. You can rest here and we can go home together. Okay. I was about to refuse, but we've been married for over a month and hadn't really talked. More time together might make it easier to discuss our problems later. So, I retreated to the little sitting area and played on my phone. Joanna rested with her eyes closed for about 15 minutes. Then started looking over some documents. These people were infuriating, smarter, and more talented than me, and they worked harder, too. They didn't leave any room for ordinary folks. Soon enough, Joanna said goodbye and left for her class. Finally, I could scroll through TikToks of hot girls in peace. I heard some researchers overseas spent 10 years studying it and found that looking at beautiful women daily can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Wonder what else those researchers were studying for 10 years, huh? Just then, there was a knock on the office door. It was probably someone looking for Joanna. If I didn't answer, they'd leave. But to my surprise, the door actually opened. It was that Kenji guy, and he was holding 2 Starbucks coffees. When he saw me, his face registered surprise. I scowled at him. I'm Joanna's husband. Do students just walk into professors' offices without permission? Now, my guy told me this guy had inappropriate feelings for Joanna. Joanna seems a little down lately. I just brought her coffee. He said, it's so matter-of-factly. And Joanna, she just told him to call her Professor King. Even though we'd only been married a month, I knew Joanna preferred green tea. She usually drinks green tea. Why coffee? Kenji took a step closer, his expression annoyed as he looked me over. Joanna and I practically grew up together. She always looked out for me. And you two only got married because your dad was her mentor. Back when Mr. King died suddenly, and then Mrs. King got seriously ill, your dad lent her money for medical bills. She only married you out of gratitude for that. He then looked me up and down with disdain. In her second year of doctoral studies, Professor King almost went to Cambridge with a senior student she admired. If your dad hadn't stopped her, she'd be a world-renowned scientist by now. And you, some loser who graduated from a Joe college, how could Joanna possibly like you? You've got no substance, nothing between your ears. You'll be divorced sooner or later. Seeing Kenji getting more and more worked up, I stood up and confronted him. Don't use your issues as an excuse to be an ass. I used to think toilets were for bathrooms, but apparently you've got one in your mouth. Just full of crap. Can't figure things out. Why don't you go take a long look in a mirror? Yeah, my college wasn't great, but I'm a decent guy. You Mr. Top-tier university brainiac. You might have a lot of knowledge in your head, but your gut's just full of toxic sludge. I am Joanna's legal husband. You're not even on the radar as a home wrecker, buddy. So, what gives you the right to stand here, spouting off your nonsense at me? Kenji was so angry he was gritting his teeth, his fist clenched. She doesn't even like you. I snorted. I'm her husband whether she likes me or not. What the hell does it have to do with you? You got a broken GPS or something? Don't you know your place? Did your brain stop growing in kindergarten? You're crude and have no class. I pursed my lips. Oh, wow. For a conniving little weasel, you sure fold easy. I've got nothing to lose, pal. You really want to go there? Let's settle this right now. First one of bail is a total chicken. Kenji's finger trembled as he pointed at me. He stammered, unable to say anything, then skewered away. Wait a minute. Why should I be the one sitting here taking this crap? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I hailed an Uber and went straight to my buddy Tyler's bar. I hadn't seen him in a few days, and the degenerate had managed to snag a sophomore girlfriend. She was a fresh bloom, all dewy and vibrant. They were all over each other. Tyler, that reprobate, even came over to flaunt it. College girls are great, man. Just a little on a clingy side. Then he leaned in and whispered shy at first that whoa, a total wildat. Almost too much for me. It made my teeth ache with jealousy. I ordered a cocktail from the bartender and downed it in one gulp. Suddenly, Tyler threw an arm around my shoulder. So, you flash married that university professor, right? How's that going? No need for cosplay. You get the real deal. I shot him a glare inside. I went to her school today and some little punk actually had the nerve to challenge me. What's his deal? Is he an older woman? Does he like her poker face? At that thought, I slammed my hand on the table and stood up. Nope. I can't live like this. I'm going to find myself a college girl, too. All right, now you're talking. My girlfriend brought a few of her roommates tonight. I'll call them over. We can all have a few drinks together. Nice one. You degenerate. Make it happen. Soon, I was surrounded by 3 or 4 college girls, all calling me sweetie this and honey that. I felt like my bones were about to melt. A few cocktails later, I was feeling much better. I don't know how much time passed, but the lights in front of me suddenly dimmed. I looked up. A tall, slender figure was blocking my view. Wait. The college girls were all petite. None of them were this tall. Why weren't you answering your phone? And why didn't you wait for me to come home together? Hearing that familiar voice, I looked closer and realized it was my professor wife. Then I saw her turn to Tyler. Sorry, Tyler. Ethan's had a bit too much. I'm taking him home. The 4 college girls nodded like little chicks pecking a grain by Professor King. Joanna drove like a maniac on the way home. I blinked and we were there. Inside, she helped me take off my shoes and put on my slippers. These ones actually fit. She guided me to the sofa. Joanna's face was tight with displeasure. Ethan, we're married. If you have something to say, just say it to me directly. I've never really dated. I don't understand all these games. Angrily, I push her away. What's it to talk about? Divorce. We have to get a divorce. I like college girls better. Joanna's expression turned icy. What did you say? Younger girls, they're not so uptight. They're sweet. They listen. They actually get you. I bet I could last half an hour with one of them. Not just 3 minutes. Joanna gripped my hand hard. Ethan, are you trying to kill me? I shot up from the sofa. Who's trying to kill who? Joanna, you tell me. Are you close to that Kenji guy or not? If you're not close, why does he just barge into your office? If you're not close, why does he say you practically grew up together? If you're not close, why is he bringing you coffee in the middle of the day and sneering that I'm not good enough for you? Did you marry me because my dad did you a favor back then? The more I talked, the more worked up I got. Suddenly, I, who usually bombed my English papers, was giving a passionate monologue that would rival a seasoned politician, not giving Joanna a chance to get a word in. I saw her looking flustered and then she just hugged me and wouldn't let go. When I finally quieted down, Joanna slowly said, "It's not what you think." When my mom was sick and I was overwhelmed with my studies, Kenji's mom helped take care of my mother when I couldn't. Later, when he got into my graduate program, she asked me to look out for him a bit. I had no idea he felt that way about me. I've always seen him as a younger brother, saying I didn't push her away. Joanna sat up straight. Ethan, I have no romantic feelings for him whatsoever. I'll keep my distance from him from now on. I have principles. I would never cheat. Please believe me, just like I believe you. I know you like going to that lounge, but I know you wouldn't do anything to cross the line. She kept my face. Our eyes meeting. Most importantly, there's only one reason I married you. Because I like you. I have money and status now. If I wanted to repay your father's kindness, I could do it financially. At this, Joanna's ears turned red and she looked down at the floor. All my anger just vanished. You like me? Since when? Why didn't you say anything before? If you'd said something, I wouldn't have wasted 2 years getting that useless master's degree overseas. Joanna looked up slightly, her voice soft. You were still in high school then, and I was already in grad school, and I was older than you. I was afraid I'd scare you if I said anything. She took my hand, looking a little shy. You're grown up now. It's just I don't know how to do that cute, affectionate stuff young people do. Maybe you could teach me. She even gave my arm a little shake. I licked my lips. That's easy. Just be more proactive. You know, kisses, hugs, sweeping me off my feet, that kind of thing. The words were barely out of my mouth when Joanna reached up, took off her glasses, and set them on the coffee table. She leaned in and hugged me, her stunning face moving closer. My academic talents might not match hers, but I was a natural when it came to kissing. Soon, Joanna's ears were bright red. Just as I was about to gain some more experience, Joanna's phone rang. It was Kenji. I looked at Joanna. Go on, answer it. Calling this late. It might be urgent. Joanna scoffed, frowned, and hit the speakerphone button. A pathetic choke sob came from the other end. Joanna, Professor, I have a cold. I'm sick. I feel so weak. Joanna picked up her phone and snapped. If you're sick, see a doctor. I'm not a physician. If it's bad, call 911 yourself. She hung up and tossed the phone aside. I drawled sarcastically. Oh, Professor. He see it. Joanna blinked her big eyes at me for a few seconds. Then a light bulb seemed to go off. Don't worry. Professor is going to make you feel all better right now. This second round also ended in a swift defeat for me, though slightly better than the first. The third time, we were evenly matched. The fourth, I charged into battle, a conquering hero emerging from the fray. Outside, the night was deep, pale moonlight streaming through the window. Ethan, do you still like college girls? Man, this woman could hold a grudge. Forget liking them. I was in a state of total post-nut clarity. I just shook my head. No. The sun was high in the sky when I finally woke up the next day. Joanna was sleeping peacefully beside me. So much for the cool, aloof ice queen, the untouchable flower on the high peak. She was surprisingly wild. These academic types, man, they pick things up fast. I shifted slightly and Joanna woke up. She glanced at the clock. It was already 9 o'clock. I asked quickly, don't you usually get up at 6:00? Is it okay to be this late? Joanna ran a hand through her hair, her voice a little. It's fine when I'm with my husband. I could sleep all day. I gently poked her nose. So, after last night, hopelessly devoted to me now, huh? Joanna hugged me tightly. Well, let me ask you, when it really counts, do you pull through? Whoa. Did Professor King suddenly get a Ph.D. in flirting? She was already leagues ahead of me in the teasing department. A faint pleasant scent drifted towards me. Joanna never wore perfume, but being close to her always had this calming, comforting effect. Of course, that was when she was wearing her glasses and her work clothes. Later, I don't know why, but my heart started to race. By the time I came to my senses, Joanna was in the kitchen wearing an apron preparing lunch. I looked at the chaotic state of the bedroom and confirmed I wasn't dreaming. How did things with Professor King escalate so quickly? Suddenly a familiar ringtone sounded, followed by Joanna's angry voice. Does being a top student at a prestigious university give you the right to be arrogant? Does that mean I can act like I'm above it all? And gossiping about people behind their backs? Have you got no shame, no decency? He's my husband. From now on, you will treat him with respect. And furthermore, I am a married woman. Do not contact me about anything other than academic matters. It sounded like she hung up. I remember what Dad once said. Joanna, though humble and easygoing, had strong principles and unwavering integrity. It seemed my wife's moral compass was so straight, it was almost intimidating, looking at my own recent behavior. I was suddenly overwhelmed with shame. I quietly walked up behind Joanna and hugged her from behind. Honey, I'm sorry I made you angry yesterday. Joanna took my hands and turned to hug my waist. It's my fault. I didn't make you feel secure. Honey, what do you like about me? Her eyes sparkled. She tilted her head, her voice soft. My parents died young. When I was in college, your father used to say he had 2 angels at home, a big one and a little one, so loving and kind. When students asked him questions after class, he'd always be checking his watch, anxious to get home, saying he had to cook for his angels. I envy that kind of family, so simple and happy. Do you remember the first time we met? Joanna's question took me back to my sophomore year of high school. Dad had told me a student of his was coming over. Her father had died years ago and her mother had just passed away from an illness. He told me to be nice to her. My thinking back then was simple. I gave her a little wooden pumpkin carriage I made. Joanna had just said a quiet thank you. Younger me thought she didn't like it. After that, every Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, Dad would invite her over and he'd give us both holiday money. I gently squeezed Joanna's cheek. You know, if you'd confessed sooner, I might not have wasted those 2 years overseas. Better late than never, right? Joanna said, then took off her glasses. Another sleepless night. When I opened my eyes, it was well past noon. Honey, you're going to be late. It's fine. My class today doesn't start until 10:30. But you always used to get up at 6 o'clock. If you just kept a leg thrown over me, I wouldn't have even thought about getting up that